function button right here and the bank/edit button are a crucial button combo. What's important to note about this rather obvious button combo are the number of sneaky edit menus that it allows you to access. And these edit menus contain a substantial amount of essential and useful functionality. If grid recording mode is off, and we're at the standard screen for editing machines and effects, then hitting this button brings us to the pattern settings menu. This has important features like the per track scale mode setting or the pattern chain settings. If we switch on grid recording mode, we're now in the track trig edit window, needed for editing slide trigs and swing trigs. It also conveniently displays recording trigs, giving a nice overview of the relationship between the various trig layers on a given audio track. If we go into the MIDI side of the Octatrack, pattern edit settings appear the same as before, but in grid recording mode on the MIDI side, we are now looking at swing trigs relating specifically to the MIDI tracks. Now let's go into the recording setup. Nothing fancy here in this edit menu, but very easy access to important utility functions, and I've overlooked it more than a few times, wasting unnecessary time by going into the audio editor to access these functions. Let's activate the arrangement mode, and here, if we hit Function and Edit, we access the Arrangement Edit menu. The first time I turned on Arranger, I was rather confused how I was supposed to do anything, as the importance of the Function and Edit combo hadn't fully dawned on me yet. Double tapping a track button takes us to the sample slot page for that track's machine. And when you're in the sample slot list, hitting Function and Edit takes you to the audio editor. In the audio editor, there are multiple submenus that you access with the Function and Edit button combo. Similar to the first time I turned on the Arranger, the first time I opened the audio editor, I really had no idea how to do much of anything. Only the last two menus relating to sample attributes and boring file system stuff will automatically open without using Function and Edit. Spend some time to familiarize yourself with the possibilities in these menus. Sometimes they can really save you a lot of time, and there's a lot of stuff you can do directly on the Octatrack without ever having to move your files over to a computer. The next crucial button combo is a bit more involved, but literally every single time I turn the Octatrack on, I generally change the trig mode using Function and the up and down arrow keys. This allows you to scroll through a list of the different trig modes. By default on every power-up, the Octatrack is in track trig mode, where the trig keys activate the different tracks. Buttons 1 through 8 are for the MIDI tracks, and buttons 9 through 16 are for the audio tracks. Make sure not to get confused by neighbor machines. Generally, triggering them will do nothing. Track trig mode is very useful, but one thing I don't like about it, and the reason I almost always change to a different trig mode immediately upon booting up the Octatrack, is the way parameters are displayed with this vague circle dial thing. Even though the numbers used for the parameters are a bit smaller than the circle thingies, they are far more readable and useful. I'd much prefer just straight up larger numbers than these silly and basically useless circles. After track trig mode in the list is chromatic mode, which will chromatically trigger the default sample of the currently active track across 2 octaves. This mode is obviously very useful in conjunction with the live recording mode, or for just auditioning sounds and trying different ideas out. The next trig mode is the slots mode. When the currently active track is a flex machine or static machine, the trig buttons represent the individual sample slots you have loaded to your project, which is a great way for auditioning different samples through different sample playback and effect settings, and for generating new ideas. This combines very well with live recording mode for putting many different samples into one track. As you can see, once you have a bit of a project going, it's pretty fun to try out all the different variations that you've already kind of made but just haven't heard yet. Just goofing around for this footage, I'm getting all sorts of results that I didn't hear when I was working on this project previously. Next up is Quick Mute, and it applies both to audio and MIDI tracks. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's worthwhile to note that when you go into the Mixer submenu, it also offers similar Quick Mute functionality. The difference being, of course, that now you're on the Mixer submenu instead of looking at your parameter page for your machine or effects. As usual, try not to be tripped up by any neighbor machines that you might have. And you also cannot mute a master track if you are using one. After Slots mode, there is the Slices Trig mode, which will only be useful on tracks containing sliced samples. Like Slots Trig mode and Chromatic Trig mode, this feature combines very well with live recording mode for quickly sketching out ideas and developing patterns. Here I'm turning off the modulation that I have on the starting slice of the sample. I'll turn it back on a little. In this example, I have individual notes from a 2-octave minor scale in each slice. Using a lot of slices with samples of different notes is a good way to maximize the pitch range of using the Octatrack trigs as a low-budget keyboard, and to set up customized scales for the trig keys. Of course, Slice Trig mode is also great for playing chopped up beats and recording them using live recording mode. But it's always good to remember that slices have many excellent uses beyond basic beat-making tasks. The last trig mode is the delay control mode, which allows easy performance access to the delay times of individual tracks, assuming they have delays. The trig buttons 9 through 16 represent the 8 tracks. If there is a delay on a track, the associated trig button will be green, and when you press and hold one of these buttons, you are now able to temporarily change the delay times of those tracks using the first 8 trig buttons, which now represent different delay time subdivisions that will be applied until you release the associated track delay access trig button. In delay control mode, the scale setup page button will switch between divide by 2 and divide by 3 subdivision behavior. The exact behavior of this control mode and how it will affect the delays is controlled through both basic delay settings as well as important features on the delay setup page. There are many different variations on how to configure this, but for the typical master track beat repeat effect that I often use, you set the delay on the master track to have lock on, pass off, and tape off. Then the delay, send, feedback, and time all need to be set to maximum values. Here in this example, I have the feedback set down a bit lower than maximum and the filter on the delay engaged to filter the delay repeats. The reason I always change the trig mode immediately upon power up is because it doesn't persist. Here you can see we're in delay control mode. And now we're back to track trig mode. Note that the MIDI layer of the Octatrack has its own independently set trig mode, but the only options we have here are track, chromatic, and quick mute.